Woojin played the virtual reality game Gate Hunter, a modern-day hunter genre game with advanced graphics and realistic NPCs. The game was notorious for its extreme difficulty, where death reset all progress, and players had only one life. Players struggled to clear the tutorial goblins, and the protagonist character, Park Siwoo, required a year to clear the first stage. Another character, Hansha, faced challenges mastering magic during the academy process, causing many users to quit. 15 years after the game's release, only a few players remained. Woojin logged into the game under the name Kukurupingpong, viewing his 5 characters, each representing years of his life. His broadcasts of conquering the game quickly gained popularity, earning him substantial donations and recognition as the world's greatest VR gamer, despite the game's waning popularity. He focused on Kim Minwoo, the final character with 5-star difficulty, known as the eldest son of a top conglomerate and characterized by arrogance, laziness, cowardice, and other flaws. Kim Minwoo's strong ego caused him to refuse player commands, such as entering dangerous areas, training, or using potions, often resulting in failure and resets. Despite intense effort, Kim Minwoo could not surpass an intermediate level and was gripped by fear during boss encounters, leading to repeated deaths and game overs. The community acknowledged Kim Minwoo's struggles, noting his inability to change class and lack of summoning abilities, which hindered his progress. On his 1024th attempt, Kim Minwoo tried creating a companion for party play but became enraged at the idea of associating with others, revealing his inherent inability to work with companions. Woojin recognized this flaw as a defining trait of the character. After that day, Kim Minwoo endured a terrible period of trial and error. Ultimately, he carved out a new path by relentlessly elevating his status within the family, gaining more authority, making money, and acquiring all kinds of artifacts. When lacking talent, he compensated with money. When money wasn't enough, he spent even more. After investing 1,832 days for the clear, he prepared to see the fruits of his labor. Logging into the game, a massive door appeared before him. The entrance to the Dragon Hall, where the final boss, the Dragon Lord, was sleeping, with 1 day remaining until its awakening. The objective was to clear the game by hunting the Dragon Lord. Just before the Dragon Lord woke and started attacking, when Minwoo's strength was at its peak and the Dragon Lord's strength was at its weakest, he opened the door and revealed a monstrous dragon-like creature. An uninvited guest appeared, and a powerful fear washed over him. The rings on his fingers began to glow fiercely, activating multiple artifacts. Mental Protection Artifact, Iron Will, S. Indomitable Spirit, S. Keen Sight, S. Viking Courage, S. Warrior of Light, S. He resisted the Dragon Lord's fear successfully and became immune to fear for 15 minutes. 5 rings exploded instantly from the resistance. He activated all the artifacts he had collected tirelessly. Dwarven King's Roars increased all stats of his equipment by 50%. Song of the Relic, S. Doubled his talent limit. Lightning Blade, S. Doubled the attack power of his sword. And Sword Dance, S. Tripled his swordsmanship proficiency. Despite his poor talent, the overlapping buffs allowed him to slash through the Dragon Lord's tough scales repeatedly. An endless battle ensued. After 3 minutes, the Dragon Lord's HP was less than 85%, achieving an astonishing achievement. After 8 minutes, the HP fell below 63%, unlocking an impossible achievement. After 14 minutes and 50 seconds, the HP dropped below 50%, and the unsolvable achievement Discovering Possibility was unlocked. At that moment, the Dragon Lord activated Dragon Word, EX, and other artifacts, controlling Kim Minwoo's body and causing him to collapse. He realized the EX level skill was not meant to be defeated. He regretted choosing the swordsman class, which had the worst compatibility with his fearful nature and poor growth potential. Despite conquering the game countless times, no answer seemed to appear. Then the screen froze and blue messages appeared instead of the usual red ones. The system congratulated him for exceeding expectations and unlocking Stage 6 with a new occupation, Necromancer. The main characters were united in one world. Growth elements branched more diversely, and the activity stage expanded significantly. Stage 6 would begin in 10 seconds. Woojin was dumbfounded by the messages and realized Stage 6 was unlocked by reducing the Dragon Lord's HP by more than half. He did not know about the foreign enemies or the necromancer occupation. As the countdown ended, Woojin's consciousness blurred, and his body vanished instantly, both in the game and inside the capsule. When the screen resumed, the broadcast had ended abruptly, and the chat window was busy with confusion. Kim Minwoo sighed as a tip appeared. Stage 6 was reality, and he had only one life. His consciousness began to merge with Kim Minwoo's body, and his mental attributes underwent significant changes. 3 days passed since he had been trapped in this world. Messages appeared on his phone's memo app. On day 1, all of Kim Minwoo's 23 years of memories transferred, and the sensory implementation rate increased by over 50%. He could not log out, and the broadcast had been dead for a long time. He suspected kidnapping and noted house arrest guards blocking him, though they provided food. On day 2, no hydration, nutrition, or waste elimination warnings appeared, and no forced logout function existed. His body felt cold, and 1 day remained until his house arrest ended. On day 3, he noted no rescue team had arrived despite the 72-hour continuous gameplay. The worst-case scenario seemed to be unfolding. The goal was to hunt foreign creatures within 7 years, or he might be stuck forever. He concluded there was no rescue team and, with house arrest over, decided to make a move. This was Stage 6 difficulty. One wrong step could mean death. He acknowledged it was not the worst situation, having dedicated half his life to Gate Hunter and survived countless dangers and life-or-death situations. Clenching his fists, Kim Minwoo resolved to get out alive and make those responsible pay. Kim Minwoo resolved to make those responsible regret crossing him, starting with the chairman. He smirked, deciding it was time to start playing seriously. He knew this world better than anyone else, holding an overwhelming information advantage. Reflecting on the past 3 days, he noted his mental state had improved significantly, lacking lethargy, irritability, arrogance, or sensitivity. Despite his lack of physical talent and no training, he had endured countless potions and high-intensity training, but his growth had stagnated at a mid-level awakener. He reviewed his status window, confirming he was still in an unawakened state with poor physical abilities. Kim Minwoo considered the limitations of melee combat against an otherworlder, far stronger than the Dragon Lord he had previously fought. He doubted ranged combat would compensate for his lack of talent. However, he recognized advantages linked to his family background. The Ilsung Group, Korea's top conglomerate and the 20th largest globally. If he could revive himself and hack into the family resources, he could acquire vast equipment. He concluded summoner-type classes, especially Necromancer, which utilized summons capable of equipping gear, suited him best. Undead summons were immune to fear, easy to manage, and loyal, making the Necromancer ideal for freeloading. After nearly 6 years of struggling with a sword, Kim Minwoo decided to try freeloading. He opened the door and told the guards he was going out briefly, asking them to contact the Sword Sect, where the S-rank Awakener and Sword Saint lived. The guards were confused but agreed. Kim Minwoo smiled and said he had business there. 5 cars carrying guards drove down the road with Kim Minwoo inside. He thought about how anyone in Gate Hunter could become an awakened by finding their unique awakening condition, which varied widely. After awakening, an achievement grade from F to S was assigned based on the process, determining the quality of job skill books created. Many achieved low ranks due to easy conditions, resulting in low-quality skills and widening gaps over time. For example, Park Saiwoo, a swordsmanship genius, earned an S rank with powerful skills, while over half of F-rank swordsmen had weak beginner skills, making catching up nearly impossible. Kim Minwoo's awakening condition was to be beaten by an awakened. As the eldest son of the Ilsung Group, he was protected from harm by others, but his father, the chairman Kim Kangchul, had beaten him severely with a golf club for drug use. This resulted in an E-rank achievement considered trash. Kim Minwoo had chosen the swordsman skill book because he admired swordsmen in dramas, but the skill was weak. The memory of struggling with spinning slash for 1,832 days remained vivid. Now, before awakening, he saw a chance to undo everything that had gone wrong. Kim Minwoo thought the awakening condition was not difficult to modify, even as simple as breathing. He understood that the awakening achievement would vary depending on who, where, and how one was hit. He decided he needed to get hit by a strong person but could not just let himself be beaten up. The higher the achievement grade, the more struggle was required. He considered the Sword Saint perfect for this, as no one stronger than him existed in Korea, and he had been swinging his sword intensely for 6 years. Kim Minwoo decided to try for an S rank. At the sword sect, the guards exited first, looked around, and opened the door for Kim Minwoo. A middle-aged man named Kim Un, an instructor at the sword sect, approached Kim Minwoo and politely asked if he wanted to look around. Kim Yuen's eyes were cold as he regarded Kim Minwoo, likely due to Minwoo's poor public reputation as a chaebol heir and playboy. Kim Minwoo accepted the offer to look around, and Kim Un agreed to show him around but warned that trainees were in the middle of training and he should be quiet and not cause trouble. Kim Un entered the building with the guards and Kim Minwoo. Kim Un showed Kim Minwoo the training ground where third-class disciples trained and mentioned that swordsmen from overseas had recently joined the sword sect. The trainees glanced at the group of guards and murmured upon seeing Kim Minwoo. Kim Un scolded the trainees for not focusing on their swords, causing them to turn their attention back to training. Kim Minwoo clapped his hands and praised the third-class disciples, and Kim Un responded curtly but with pride. They passed the training grounds for second-class and first-class disciples, which were not easily open to outsiders. When they reached the heart of the sword sect, Kim Un asked if Kim Minwoo enjoyed the tour but said outsiders were not allowed beyond that point. Kim Minwoo expressed disappointment and said he wanted to see the Sword Saint. Kim Un explained that the Sword Saint was in closed-door training and implied that Minwoo was not someone who could just come and go. Kim Minwoo nodded, knowing the Sword Saint was in closed-door training and had approached as close as he could. Kim Minwoo took a deep breath and loudly challenged the Sword Saint to a duel. Kim Un was flustered and tried to stop him, but Kim Minwoo announced he would bet 100 billion won on the duel and donate the money to the Sword Sect regardless of the outcome. He insisted on using the Sword Saint's sword and taunted him to come out if he was not scared. Kim Un grabbed Minwoo's shoulder in alarm. Then, laughter echoed through the Sword Sect, and an old man with a majestic physique appeared before Kim Minwoo. The man was the Sword Saint Seo Jinchul, whose dark eyes seemed to draw everything in. Seo Jinchul recognized Kim Minwoo from stories told by his granddaughter and recalled his reputation as a cowardly, lazy, and vulgar man who had been kept in check only by the Il-sung group's influence. Seo Jinchul scanned Kim Minwoo's body and saw no visible mana, confirming he was an ordinary person. Despite considering him a cowardly little punk, Seo Jinchul acknowledged that Kim Minwoo was a seed worth cultivating. Seo Jinchul commented that 100 billion won was a lot of money, and Kim Minwoo said it had to be used at a time like this. Seo Jinchul asked if Minwoo had ever wielded a sword, and Minwoo said a few times. Seo Jinchul led Minwoo to the training hall where the first-line disciples were located. As the Sword Saint appeared, the disciples' eyes lit up. Seo Jinchul moved to the center of the training hall, raised his wooden sword, and his ferocious aura disappeared, making him appear ordinary to outsiders. Seo Jinchul said a duel had to be fair to be meaningful and that he had adjusted his physical capabilities to Minwoo's level, instructing him to pick up a sword. Kim Minwoo picked up a wooden sword and saw Seo Jinchul's expressionless eyes staring at him. Minwoo knew a lot about the Sword Saint because he had interacted with him in the game. Seo Jinchul was the creator of the wind sword technique and the strongest awakened in Korea but was currently stagnating in his swordsmanship. At his level, elixirs would not raise his realm. He needed pure realization. Seo Jinchul would likely remain in this state for another 5 years before creating a new sword technique to complement his weaknesses and advance to the next realm. The Wind Lightning Sword Technique, combining the softness of the wind with the speed and power of lightning. Minwoo had learned that technique directly from Seo Jinchul's granddaughter, Seo Yerim. Using that connection, Seo Jinchul truly deserved to be called a Sword Saint, as Minwoo had never won against him even once. But now things were different. Sword Saint was not yet the complete Sword Saint he was now. He targeted the weaknesses of the Wind Sword technique, the few gaps that had not yet been complemented before he created the Wind Lightning Sword technique. He considered attacking those gaps with the Wind Lightning Sword technique, a much higher level sword technique, to create an advantage. He decided it was worth a try, even if just for a short burst, knowing that an ordinary person would have difficulty sparring for 3 minutes. Kim Minwoo's body also had limits despite his changed spirit, making it difficult to sustain a battle for long. He estimated he could continue fighting for no more than 7 minutes and resolved to get meaningful results during that time. He planned to land only 3 wooden sword strikes on Sword Saint's body. Sword Saint showed no gaps even without using mana, and his physical body resembled an ordinary person's. His stance had no unnecessary movements as he raised his wooden sword, perfectly defending everything from his face to his abdomen. Observing this, Kim Minwoo's fighting spirit rose, and Sword Saint questioned if this was truly all he was. A beginner who had only swung a sword a few times. Sword Saint was in shock. Kim Minwoo's stance was too sophisticated, and every step they took as they circled each other had meaning. Sword Saint expected Kim Minwoo to expose a gap momentarily or prepare to charge at any moment. Sword Saint found it unbelievable but had no reason not to believe it. Kim Minwoo's body showed no signs of sword training. His hands were free of calluses, and his overall muscle mass was lacking. He was a complete beginner who had never started learning the sword, yet he was fighting Sword Saint on equal terms. The tension rose without a single clash. Then Kim Minwoo took a deep breath. Both knew this was a duel between masters. The first to move would be quickly analyzed, but neither could keep dodging forever. Kim Minwoo decided to give up one move and strike first. Sword Saint realized Kim Minwoo's intentions and charged forward like lightning, anger filling him. He was Sword Saint and would not yield to a snot-nosed kid. Their wooden swords clashed forcefully. Sword Saint's sword gently pierced Kim Minwoo like a gentle breeze and sometimes as fierce as a storm. The Wind Sword technique, a terrifying swordsmanship that relentlessly pursued its opponent with endless coordination without a single opening. Kim Minwoo barely managed to block and dodge, teetering on the edge of danger. Sword Saint's attack continued without pause, and in an instant, Kim Minwoo was on the defensive, but his eyes shone brighter than ever. Recalling the path of the Wind Sword technique, Kim Minwoo suddenly swung his wooden sword. For a brief moment, both swords struck each other fiercely. Kim Minwoo's sword attacked Sword Saint's gap, and Sword Saint's wooden sword struck Kim Minwoo's shoulder. At that moment, the achievement began to bloom. Both men took 2 steps back simultaneously. Sword Saint's face hardened as he acknowledged Kim Minwoo's sudden thrust had accurately pierced through the gap in the Wind Sword technique, a gap even he had not been aware of. Sword Saint asked how Kim Minwoo had found out. Kim Minwoo, panting and smiling, said it just felt like the right time to thrust. Sword Saint inquired if Kim Minwoo had ever learned the sword before. Kim Minwoo replied no. Sword Saint nodded, seeing his unwavering eyes, and apologized for not asking for this duel first. Kim Minwoo told him to do his best until one of them falls. Sword Saint admitted that in terms of pure swordsmanship, Kim Minwoo was an opponent worthy of being called his equal, and considering he had found a gap Sword Saint had not found for years, this boy was even more dangerous. Sword Saint's eyes became even more serious. Inside the swordsmanship hall, Seo Yerim, who had been sitting cross-legged with her eyes closed, opened her eyes at the faint cheers. The hall was unusually noisy. She remembered Gimangu was supposed to visit the swordsmanship hall and, feeling curious, she came out of the training room. She saw several instructors moving busily and asked what was going on. They told her Sword Saint was in the middle of a duel. When she asked with whom, her eyes sparkled. Sword Saint Seo Jinchul, the greatest swordsman in the world, was dueling, and naturally it was worth watching. She wondered who her grandfather was dueling against, assuming the opponent must also be a great person. Several figures flashed through her mind: Shin Chong, Quan Wong, Dakma, all superhumans ranked in the top 10 of the Korean Awakened, worthy of her grandfather's time. Then an instructor said it was Kim Minwoo. Seo Yerim was shocked and recalled she hated Kim Minwoo for openly ogling her body. She considered him a pathetic and disgusting human being and questioned why her grandfather was dueling with that pervert. The instructor explained Kim Minwoo had bet 100 billion won on the duel and would donate all of it to the swordsmanship hall, regardless of the outcome. Seo Yerim realized why Sword Saint had moved personally. 100 billion won was a considerable amount that could upgrade the training facilities. She concluded her grandfather had moved personally because of the money, not because of Kim Minwoo. She decided to watch the duel and invited the instructor to join her, smiling brightly. She thought watching Kim Minwoo get beaten up and simultaneously improving the old facilities was killing two birds with one stone. They moved to where the duel was taking place. Seo Yerim was shocked and wondered if someone had hypnotized her because she could not understand the sight before her eyes. Kim Minwoo fiercely exchanged swords with Sword Saint in the training hall. He blocked the storm-like sword attacks and counterattacked between Sword Saint's strikes. Seo Yerim watched in awe as Minwoo demonstrated a duel fought purely with physical skill, without mana. The two swordsmen exchanged playful taunts as they continued their duel. Minwoo's grandfather appeared to enjoy himself immensely, surprising Yerim. Despite her own reputation as Sword Phoenix Seo Yerim, she felt threatened by Minwoo's performance. As the duel continued for several minutes, Minwoo gradually became defensive, his stamina waning. Sword Saint, an S-class awakened, showed no signs of fatigue or decreased speed. Minwoo struggled to keep up, his body trembling from exhaustion. Suddenly, Sword Saint's spirit flared, sensing the possibility of defeat, surprised that Minwoo had lasted so long. Sword Saint regarded Minwoo warmly, apologizing for focusing only on himself earlier. Minwoo reminded him of their earlier promise to continue until one fell. Though close to collapse, Minwoo's eyes showed determination and indomitable will. Sword Saint smiled and launched a rapid three-strike attack aimed at Minwoo's head, shoulder, and body. Minwoo counterattacked fiercely, his wooden sword passing through the strikes and striking Sword Saint's chest 3 times. After the exchange, Minwoo collapsed to the ground, a bright blue light bursting from his body, signaling a powerful awakening. Messages appeared before Minwoo's eyes, calculating his achievements. Despite his poor natural talent, he had earned multiple achievements, including the Duel of 100 Billion, Rank B. What the hell are you? Rank B+. Overpowering Battle Continuation, Rank A. Swordsmanship Prodigy from the Start, Rank A+. Crazed Ordinary Person, Rank S. Master of the Sword Saint, Rank S+, and Founder of a Swordsmanship Style, Rank. The system struggled to rank his unprecedented achievements and indicated that a new achievement rank was necessary. As more messages appeared, Minwoo recognized the blue messages from before his move to the 6th stage. They discussed raising humanity's growth limit due to Minwoo's potential. Other messages debated the risks and implications of intervening, suggesting the possibility of multiple exceptional beings emerging. Minwoo observed the messages conversing as if alive, a sight he had never seen before. Inside the barrier, one being objected but then questioned if a human was eavesdropping on their conversation. A warning appeared, alerting that the beings inside the barrier had become aware of the anomaly. One being urged to resolve the issue before the author woke up and expressed agreement with raising humanity's growth limit. Another agreed to put faith in humanity, while a fourth reluctantly consented, acknowledging that humans would probably discover them but agreeing to push them a little. The second being questioned the confidence behind this decision. The vote passed with 3 in favor and 1 against. The world line began changing, the transcendence of the species was declared, and the potential of all humans was greatly increased. An achievement titled, He Who Opened the Horizon, was added to the existing achievements. Warnings indicated that an unknown entity sensed the anomaly and started searching for its cause, advising caution. Minwoo opened his eyes inside a vat filled with warm, brown liquid, recognizing it as the Tears of the Sword, a legendary healing potion of the Sword sect. The potion relaxed muscles, improved blood circulation, and cleansed blood vessels. He noted the potion's expensive ingredients, including monster byproducts, herbs, and magic stones. His muscle pain vanished, and he felt refreshed. A message appeared before his eyes, stating that all achievement calculations had been completed with a result of EX rank, granting him a job skill book, EX, and prompting him to choose a desired job. He recognized the EX rank as superior to S rank and the same as that used by the Dragon Lord. A knock came at the bathhouse door, and a trembling voice told Minwoo to get dressed and come out. He recognized the voice as Seo Yerim, the Sword Saint's granddaughter. After dressing in the clothes hanging there, Minwoo stepped outside and asked what she wanted. Seo Yerim said her grandfather had told her to bring him over once he woke up. Minwoo walked ahead nonchalantly, and Seo Yerim noticed his different demeanor and the absence of malice in his eyes. She asked where he had learned his swordsmanship, and Minwoo replied that he never learned it. Seo Yerim accused him of lying, noting the graceful and perfect distribution of power and the sophisticated swordsmanship he displayed, which surpassed her grandfather's wind sword technique. Minwoo said he just swung the sword however he wanted, which left Seo Yerim dumbfounded. She asked how that was possible, admitting she could not do the same. Minwoo asked if she could not do it, tilting his head in genuine puzzlement. Seo Yerim decided not to continue the conversation and led him to the inner room where the Sword Saint waited. The Sword Saint acknowledged Minwoo's arrival, thanked him for his presence, and congratulated him on his awakening, praising his brilliant talent. Seo Yerim listened silently, recalling how she had trained daily from age 7 to 22 but had never heard such praise from her grandfather. The Sword Saint handed Minwoo a small box containing a fragrant red pill, a sword shadow pill, one of the sword sect's rare treasures. Minwoo accepted it, promising to use it well. The Sword Saint asked if Minwoo had considered becoming his disciple, but Minwoo declined. The Sword Saint expressed surprise and asked why he did not plan to become a swordsman. Minwoo thought the Sword Saint was mistaken, as his apparent genius came from using swordsmanship created by the future Sword Saint. With the best expert controlling his body, he only seemed like a genius. However, Minwoo's physical talent was poor, and swordsmen relied heavily on physical ability, so his growth would eventually stall. He concluded he was better suited to be a necromancer than a swordsman. Minwoo told the Sword Saint he had seen his limits. The Sword Saint narrowed his eyes and asked what he had seen. Minwoo explained he had seen the illusion and the boundary between it, the realm of no-self that existed between them. The Sword Saint closed his eyes, muttering about illusion, boundary, and no-self, sensing something. Minwoo admitted he realized instinctively that he could not go further but did not want to set limits on himself yet. He suggested that maybe in a different field other than the sword, he could progress. The Sword Saint closed his eyes quietly. Minwoo prepared to leave, and the Sword Saint said the donation would be sent soon. Kim Minwoo left the inner chamber, leaving the silent Sword Saint behind. Yerim, who had watched her grandfather with closed eyes, sat down on the spot, unable to understand his words about illusion, boundary, and no-self. The Sword Saint opened his eyes wide and declared that Kim Minwoo was not just a brilliant talent but a genius, someone seen once in 10,000 years. He called for his phone urgently, intending to contact Chairman Kim. On his way out of the sword sect, the guards looked at Minwoo with many questions, but they held back as he focused on his task. Once inside the car, Minwoo instructed the driver to take him to the main house, closed the windows and curtains, and began creating an EX-rank skill book. He selected the job necromancer, confirmed the irreversible choice, and transferred to the necromancer class. The system generated his stats, opened his inventory, and granted him the EX-rank skill Deathlord, which had multiple powerful effects. Summoned undead revived once more per day, their stats increased by 50%, mana cost for summoning reduced by 50%, all undead gained the ability to learn, and a trial of Deathlord would be granted upon meeting certain conditions. Minwoo marveled at the skill's power, comparing it to other necromancers and calculating the effective strength of his summoned undead. He noted that even ordinary skeletons might gain the ability to learn, which was previously limited to high-ranking undead like the Dullahan. He checked his status window, seeing his level, stats, and skill. His physical stats were below average, but his magic stat was about average, which increased skill slots and mana. He decided to raise his magic stat first. Minwoo took out an A-rank sword shadow pill from his pocket, which increased all stats by 10 but decided to save it for later, planning to find other pills to raise stats more efficiently. His phone rang. It was his father, Chairman Kim Kangchul, who asked if Minwoo had awakened, expressing urgency and ordering him to come home immediately. Chairman Kim paced in his study, still shocked by the news of Minwoo sparring with the Sword Saint and being praised as a great swordsman. After talking to the Sword Saint and bodyguards, he learned that Minwoo had not lost to the Sword Saint, but had pushed him back before collapsing from lack of stamina. As Minwoo entered the study, Chairman Kim urged him to explain what had happened in more detail. Minwoo began to respond, scratching his head. In the study, Chairman Kim laughed, frowned, and slapped his knees as Minwoo explained. Chairman Kim had worried about his eldest son, who had shown little promise until his mid-20s, but now Minwoo had dared to apply for a duel with the Sword Saint while staking $1 billion. Even the Sword Saint was amazed by Minwoo's talent. Chairman Kim smiled and declared that Minwoo was truly his son, recalling his own youth as an awakener and joking about having 2 tiger cubs. When Minwoo asked if his father was going to do something, Chairman Kim admitted to being penniless but promised to handle the 100 billion won payment despite his confiscated funds. Chairman Kim emphasized that the money was meant to improve relations with the sword sect, not just to clean up a mess, and he felt proud seeing his son grow. Chairman Kim asked about Minwoo's achievement rank, expecting at least A or S. Minwoo corrected him, saying it was higher than S, which shocked Chairman Kim since no awakener had ever received above S. Minwoo showed his status window, revealing an EX-rank skill called Death Lord and the occupation of Necromancer. Chairman Kim was surprised and confused because the Sword Saint had praised Minwoo as a great swordsman. Minwoo explained that with good equipment, his skeletons would be invincible, and as a necromancer who could wield swords, he could be a genius swordsman necromancer if needed. Chairman Kim was speechless. Later, Minwoo sighed as he entered a room, having convinced the Sword Saint with a plausible excuse but needing to be careful with Chairman Kim, a C-rank awakener. He relied on his family's reputation and the EX-rank skill to justify the money he requested. Chairman Kim opened his purse and deposited 100 billion won into Minwoo's account, urging him to work hard as the only awakener to bring glory to their family name. Minwoo had revealed his rank to secure substantial support, knowing that modest claims would yield less funding. He needed bold actions to compete internationally within 7 years. Along with the money, Chairman Kim provided Minwoo with various low-rank potions to increase mana, stamina, strength, and agility. Minwoo questioned whether the potions would be enough to raise his skeleton's abilities to 50, noting that the increase varied by individual talent. He found the potions unreliable compared to rare, expensive ones like sword shadow pills, which were scarce and reserved for other awakened people in Ilsung. Minwoo planned to acquire better potions later by proving his skills. After consuming nearly 100 potions, Minwoo's stats, strength, agility, vitality, and magic showed minimal improvement, and he apologized to Chairman Kim for the poor results. He noted that while leveling up always increased stats, potions had diminishing returns after certain thresholds. Realizing the importance of better resources, Minwoo headed to the auction house. Kim Minwoo decided to max out the stats that could be raised with potions before increasing them through level-ups and other methods, following the Royal Road strategy. He understood that only a few awakened could afford to consume expensive potions rapidly, like those who could replicate money or receive support from the government or large guilds. He arrived at the Awakeners Auction House Korean branch, a huge building among the city blocks. He accessed the potion store through a hologram interface, which listed thousands of potions at various prices. By narrowing the search criteria, he quickly found the potions he wanted: 200 lowest grade mana potions priced at 100 million won each, 200 lowest grade strength potions at 80 million won each, and 200 each of lowest grade agility and stamina potions at 70 million won each, all registered by alchemist Choi Yuna 3 hours prior. Kim Minwoo realized these potions had likely flooded the market due to a large order cancellation and decided to purchase all 800 low-grade potions for 64 billion won. After confirming the warnings about non-transferability and the high commission fee, he completed the purchase, and the potions were stored in his inventory. He chose to share his buyer information with Choi Yuna, anticipating future cooperation. Meanwhile, Choi Yuna was frustrated with the Golden Star Group, a top 100 Korean company that had gone bankrupt after ordering large quantities of her potions. She lamented the financial loss and the difficulty of selling the potions, which she had put up for auction in desperation. When all her lowest-grade potions sold suddenly, she received the buyer information revealing Kim Minwoo as the purchaser, surprising her and her colleagues. Kim Minwoo began absorbing the potions one by one. The lowest-grade mana elixir caused no noticeable change, but the lowest-grade agility elixir increased his agility slightly, and the lowest-grade strength elixir raised his strength by 1. He continued consuming the potions, amazed by the positive results and his own luck, noting that he was only at about 30 stats out of the 50 limit. Kim Minwoo continued absorbing the potions and accessed the next purchase window in the skillbook store. He searched for necromancer skills between levels 1 and 5 and found the skeleton summon, F, skillbook priced at 2,000,001. Recognizing it as the basic summoning skill, he bought all 42 available skillbooks. The system notified him of multiple copies and offered to combine 2 identical skillbooks to strengthen them with a 95% success rate. He initiated auto-enhancement, resulting in several skeleton summon, F+1 skillbooks, though some disappeared during the process. He combined 2+1 skillbooks to create a +2 skillbook, understanding that the enhancement could go up to 9 stars but required hundreds of copies and decreasing success rates. Despite the challenge, he proceeded, noting the effect nearly doubled at 9 stars. After reaching +4 enhancement, the system warned of insufficient skillbooks to continue. With no more low-level necromancer skillbooks available, he prepared for a larger purchase. Kim Minwoo spent about 20 billion won to buy all F-grade skillbooks priced under 5 million won and level 5 or below, acquiring 6,124 items. The system suggested synthesizing 2 different skillbooks to create a random skillbook of the same grade. He set conditions to keep only skeleton summon and roll everything else, then started automatic synthesis. From thousands of books, he expected to obtain about 300 skillbooks, acknowledging the game's probability balancing system. He planned to create a 9-star enhanced skill and strengthen the Deathlord passive skill twice to make his skeletons invincible. He called his father to report nearly depleting his initial investment funds due to potion expenses and skillbook difficulties. His father agreed to provide an additional 200 billion won for equipment and requested that Minwoo become the model for their Ilsung advertisement, posing as an S-grade awakened rather than an EX rank. They discussed using his skeleton army for promotional product placements, and his father arranged for others to purchase skillbooks outside the auction house to speed up collection. After the call, Kim Minwoo absorbed more potions and contemplated the advertisement opportunity, considering the fame from his awakening scene at the Sword Sect. He anticipated attracting attention as an S-rank achievement without drawing assassins. Suddenly, the system announced that all his abilities had reached the level 1 growth limit of 50, and he acquired the titles Promising Rookie and Potion Slayer. He also partially met the first trial condition of Deathlord but lacked Undead summoning skills, prompting him to acquire one. He planned to learn the Undead summoning skill after enhancing it to 9 stars and preparing everything else. Meanwhile, GateNet, the largest awakened community, buzzed with rumors about someone buying up all Necromancer totem summon skillbooks, causing shortages for other classes. Players discussed monopolies at gates, black-suited buyers purchasing unpopular skills at higher prices, and the rising cost of popular skillbooks, especially for mages seeking elemental mastery. Players at GateNet debated whether to learn skeleton summon by awakening magic at the academy or to purchase the skillbook directly. They reported that sword mastery items were out of stock and noted the absence of F-rank skillbooks for sale, which affected multiple classes. Users mentioned that black-suited buyers were bidding higher and monopolizing skillbooks, possibly connected to the Ilsung group. Rumors circulated about a duel between Sword Saint and Kim Minwoo, suggesting Kim Minwoo had achieved at least A-rank status after awakening. The Ilsung information team leader expressed cautious belief in the duel's authenticity and speculated about the emergence of a super rookie. At the auction house, Kim Minwoo completed Enhancing Skeleton Summoning, F, to +9 after 2 days of collecting all the skill books nationwide. He acquired the title Budding Prodigy for creating a +9 enhanced skill at level 1. The enhancement increased the skill's effect to summon 2 level 1 skeletons for 10 mana instead of 1. His status window showed stats unusually high for level 1 with strength, agility, vitality, and mana all at 51 or 52. With Deathlord's 50% mana reduction effect, he could summon up to 208 skeletons with increased stats. He believed no other level 1 awakened could surpass him and considered preparing equipment, potions, and consumables for the Call of Deathlord skill. He planned to receive that skill at level 1 before conquering gates to maximize title acquisition. As he decided to search for level 1 or higher equipment, low-level items began disappearing rapidly from the auction house. In the auction house, 9 out of 10 would recommend the Black Heart set, also known as the National Rule Magic set, notable for its equip level of 1, allowing beginners who had just awakened to wear it immediately. Despite each piece's modest effects, the full set activated powerful bonuses, making it a luxury item effective up to level 40. The set typically cost around 200 million won, affordable for awakened players with some financial support, leading to active trading and many melee classes saving up for it. Minwoo chose to buy all Black Heart set items priced under 5,000 won, withdrawing 50.728 billion won minus a 10% fee. He moved the items to his inventory but faced weight limits, so he transferred them to a subspace ring lent by Chairman Kim, saving 50 billion won in hiring fees. Inventory space remained limited despite level increases, making subspace rings highly valuable since porters could not safely transport items to upper gates. Minwoo acquired 200 sets of equipment, weapons for his skeletons, spares, and ample top-grade potions and consumables. He equipped rare individual items rather than cost-effective set pieces, each costing hundreds of millions but providing skill effects from level 1 usage. He equipped the Raven's Creepy Skullcap, Goblin King's Elastic Armor, Purple Goblin Leather Pants, Amulet of Mumbling, Minor Witch's Mana Gloves, Swift Thief's Shoes, and the Excavator Chief's Sword, activating skills like Fearful Gaze, Elastic Skin, Curse of Sadness, Shield, Ice Ball, Haste, and Bleeding. He prepared for battle himself if necessary and completed preparations. Upon acquiring the Skeleton Summon skill at level 9, the first trial of Deathlord began, and the scenery shifted to absolute darkness. A disembodied voice announced the activation of power and revealed itself as a recording triggered by Minwoo's inheritance. Minwoo acknowledged the futility of dialogue and summoned his skeleton army, which emerged from the earth and equipped their armor and weapons swiftly. The voice recounted a tale of revenge, death, and realization of being a puppet on a stage, planning for the future despite overwhelming opposition. Minwoo focused on commanding his skeletons to equip the Black Heart set pieces and any remaining armor. As the voice continued, Minwoo noticed one skeleton holding 2 heavy shields with dangling arms and ordered it to pick up only 1 shield. He snatched one of the shields away from the skeleton and handed it a sword. The voice tested his qualifications, stating that if he survived and proved himself, he would obtain its power, but failure would trap him in eternity with no escape. Minwoo acknowledged that he was already fully equipped, which must have increased his power significantly. The voice announced the beginning of the first arrangement, and the scenery shifted, becoming blurry. Minwoo found himself on top of a massive wall surrounded by countless undead forces, including skeleton mages, warriors, archers, Dullahans, liches, specters, death knights, and a massive bone dragon below. A message explained that this was the battlefield of eternity, created from Sir Cedric's regrets, and that Minwoo was in a virtual body with the same skills, stats, and inventory but could not gain experience points. Time resumed, color returned, and the undead's eyes ignited with fire. A golden skeleton knight riding the bone dragon addressed Minwoo as the one arranged by the Lord, identifying himself as Sir Cedric and granting Minwoo authority over the undead forces of Sector 16 of the Wall, including 1 Death Knight, 1 Lich, 5 Dullahans, 5 Specters, and 500 skeletons, along with the title, Baby Commander. Suddenly, a tremendous roar announced the arrival of countless orcs clad in black armor lined up on the plain before the wall, banging their weapons and raising their fighting spirit. A real dragon, wyverns, hydras, cyclops, kodos, and death witches stood near the orcs. Minwoo assessed that the orcs' numbers and quality far outmatched the undead, with no place to run due to a cliff behind the wall. He concluded that fighting was the only option and considered the time limit to survive for recognition or reinforcements. A massive orc hero stood among the orcs, radiating overwhelming strength, possibly stronger than the dragon. Minwoo recognized the frontal attack as extremely difficult and reflected on his limited skill usage and low level. He reasoned that the battlefield was created from regret and that solving Cedric's regret might end the battle. The orc hero thrust his glaive forward, and the orcs charged with long ladders. The Death Knight on the wall ordered to shoot all arrows, and a shower of arrows rained down, killing a few orcs. Ladders were placed against the wall, and the orcs surged like a tidal wave. The Death Knight, Lich, Dullahan, Spectre, and Minwoo's baby skeletons prepared for battle, raising weapons. Minwoo swung his sword at the orc heads above the wall and realized his body moved much more smoothly despite unchanged stats. The advantage of the wall allowed them to kill orcs before they could fight back. But the baby skeletons were caught when an orc grabbed a hammer with one hand and snapped it. The skeleton shook the weapon it clung to, but the orc's hand remained stuck to it. The orc pulled with all his might, yanking the skeleton off the wall. The skeleton fell down with a crash. The system announced the cancellation of multiple skeleton summons. Surrounded by orcs, the skeletons began to be recalled without strength. Orc archers started shooting from the ground. Minwoo narrowly avoided an arrow that grazed his face. He ordered the Lich Hans to cut the ladders with acid magic. Hans used acidic touch to break the ladder tops, causing orcs climbing up to fall down screaming. More orcs continued to climb. Upper-level orcs began appearing, including an orc berserker. The berserker swung a huge axe near Minwoo's head, but Minwoo thrust his sword into the orc's abdomen. The system notified Minwoo that he had hunted 100 higher-level orcs and awarded him the title Orc Hunter, which increased damage against orcs. Minwoo resummoned the cancelled skeletons, quickly replenishing nearly 200, though most were unarmed due to being dropped below the wall. He ordered the skeletons to pick up any weapons. For 30 minutes, then an hour, then 2 hours, Minwoo blocked orc attacks repeatedly. Mid-level undead such as Dullahan and Spectres died one by one, and Death Knights and Liches began to disappear. Minwoo cut down orcs and ran again. The system notified him of hunting 500 higher-level orcs and upgraded his title to Orc Slayer. A warning appeared that he had consumed too many potions and was starting to overload. Minwoo realized saving them all was impossible. He ordered Hans to use a powerful spell. Hans cast Earthquake, cracking the ground in front of the wall and swallowing hundreds of orcs. Minwoo gained a brief respite. Suddenly, the orc hero roared. A huge dragon flew rapidly toward the wall's 16th sector. Minwoo shouted for Cedric to intervene. A bone dragon flew in from behind and collided with the native dragon. The dragon shook in pain. Cedric clung to the dragon like a leech, stabbing it repeatedly. Meanwhile, kodos charged toward the city gate, shaking it violently. Mages, including liches, chanted spells but had depleted mana. Giants struck the weakened gate with massive weapons. Wyverns swooped down, snatching spellcasting undead, while death witches bound Dullahans and Death Knights with spells. The undead's movements became erratic without Cedric's command. The gate was near collapse. Minwoo decided they needed to retreat. He asked Hans if he had a crystal ball to communicate with other commanders. Hans produced the crystal ball. Minwoo infused it with mana and ordered all commanders, except a small contingent of skeletons, to retreat from the walls and gather in the inner city, citing a direct order from the commander-in-chief. Hans expressed surprise that Cedric had flown away without informing anyone. A commotion arose from the crystal ball's other end, where a commander questioned the order's validity, having received no instructions from Cedric. Another commander confirmed the order's authenticity, stating Cedric had saved Minwoo from the dragon attack. The 15th commander appeared suddenly and stated that Sir Cedric had protected him during the dragon attack. making it highly likely that Cedric's order was truthful. Hans acknowledged the reasonableness of the order to retreat, given the imminent breach of the city walls, and agreed to follow it. The undead forces retreated from the walls, leaving a special forces unit behind. Less than 3 minutes later, the city gate collapsed with a roar, and the orcs poured in, finding only weak undead and no strong enemies as they looked toward the small inner city. He surveyed the undead atop the inner city walls. 10 liches, 9 death knights, 100 mid-level undead, and 1,000 skeletons, far fewer than the initial force. The enemy's main force, including the orc hero, his elite guard, and remaining high-level monsters, held their positions. The inner city's smaller walls and weaker gates meant they might hold for 30 minutes if the orcs charged again, or 10 minutes if the high-level monsters joined, which seemed to be the enemy's plan to exploit depleted mana reserves. He commanded the Death Knight commanders, and the Kodos charged forward with a thunderous roar. The liches and skeleton mages cast grease to slick the ground. The Kodos and giants slipped and crashed in a domino effect. He ordered to intercept the wyverns and protect the liches, drew his sword, and braced against the descending wyverns. A wyvern slammed into him, sending him flying and injuring his wrist. He quickly drank a potion as orcs closed in. Messages appeared showing skeletons killing orcs and gaining combat experience due to the Death Lord's effect. But the defenders were still pushed back. The inner city gate shattered, walls were overrun. A Death Knight was crushed by a giant, and the orcs' encirclement tightened. A dragon plummeted from the sky, crashing into the giants and Kodos below. The wounded dragon gasped for breath and faced the undead, landing heavily. Cedric's voice called out, and time froze. Messages informed that the required survival time had been met, the basic escape condition fulfilled, and asked if he wished to escape now, warning that declining would disable the escape option again. He realized the battlefield was formed from Cedric's regrets and doubted that mere survival was the full condition for gaining power. He resolved that leaving now would be like scoring 30 out of 100 and decided to continue playing to uncover Cedric's regrets. He declined the escape option, time resumed, and Cedric, despite cracked golden bones, asked why he was still there. He replied that he did not yet know Cedric's regrets and was risking his life to find out. Cedric acknowledged the seriousness of his choice, and together they moved forward, sweeping away orcs and high-level monsters. The orc hero's chest pounded with excitement as he prepared to engage Cedric. The orc guards began moving as well, and 2 orc guards attacked 1 Death Knight, forcing him into defense. 1 orc guard designated him as prey, increasing attack power and decreasing his stats with a war cry. Seeing the desperate struggle of the Death Knights and liches, he resolved to charge forward using his last resort. In the battlefield, he consumed the highest rank strength, agility, stamina, mana, health, and mana potions one after another, increasing his stats by 50% and healing wounds rapidly. A warning appeared that he had consumed too many potions in a short period, risking addiction and reduced future effects, but he accepted the danger to survive. He noted the orc guards were level 250, likely buffed to level 300 like the orc hero chasing Cedric. He deflected a flying glaive with his sword, then sliced an orc's collarbone, causing blood to spurt. The orc swung his glaive, forcing him to roll and drop his sword. More skeletons were summoned as he opened his subspace ring, scattering equipment on the floor. The skeletons armed themselves and attacked the orc from all sides, stabbing and holding the orc's glaive-wielding hand. He drew a hammer from his inventory and swung it at the orc's face, smashing the sword embedded in the orc's raised arm and cutting the arm off. The one-armed orc's eyes turned red as he charged, swinging his glaive. He blocked the attack with the hammer, sparks flying as he was pushed back. Skeletons stabbed the orc's back while he focused on deflecting attacks. The orc threw the glaive, narrowly missing his head, then charged with arms spread wide to grab him. A message announced his victory and the acquisition of the title Strong Hunter. Suddenly, the orc hero cast difference in Class EX, emitting an overwhelming presence that shook his soul. The undead bodies collapsed instantly, including Death Knights, liches, and the Bone Dragon. Cedric staggered violently, and Kim Minwoo felt his own strength fade under the soul-shaking effect. Cedric, struggling, looked at the orc hero. He recalled countless endless battles against this monster, always ending in defeat. Once a knight betrayed and killed, he became undead for revenge and served as a Death Lord general. The arrival of the orc hero and others had defeated all 4 generals. The orc hero toyed with Cedric repeatedly, sparing his life each time. Cedric reflected on when his ambition turned to fear, overwhelmed by the orc hero at the Battle of Hrungnir, where he met his end. He regretted his cowardice but felt relief at no longer being pursued. However, he awoke again, trapped in an infinite time loop arranged by the Death Lord. Occasionally, participants entered this eternal battlefield, with outcomes mostly unchanged. Participants who failed to hold on died, and their souls were stuffed into ordinary skeletons, doomed to be swept up in the eternal battlefield forever. Very rarely, a participant succeeded in holding on and chose either to stay on the stage or to escape. Even if they escaped, the battlefield continued to repeat itself. Those who stayed inevitably died, and their souls were stuffed again. Cedric would fall to the orc hero once more and eventually participate in the repeating battlefield again. He could not overcome it alone, as the outcome seemed predetermined. The orc hero approached Cedric, glaive gleaming as if conducting an execution. Cedric blankly stared at the weapon when a human charged in and shouted not to give up. Kim Minwoo finally understood Cedric's regret. The EX grade skill was powerful but insufficient to prevent someone like Cedric from failing to resist. Cedric was a strong knight with a strong ego, commanding many undead. Yet he died pitifully and regretted it even after death. To stop that regret, the orc hero had to be stopped first, as one could only overcome regret by staying alive. Despite dizziness, Kim Minwoo struggled to move his body, biting the inside of his lip until blood oozed, waking him up. His cold body gradually warmed, and he regained feeling in his fingers. He concentrated, recalling how he always cleared challenges in the game, even though this was reality. He took a step forward, then a second step, and finally his body flew up toward the orc hero's descending glaive. His sword broke upon impact, but he survived. The hero's eyes narrowed sharply, interrupted in his pleasure. Kim Minwoo remained silent as the orc hero approached. He barely stayed on his feet. The hero tilted his head, seeing him as an insignificant bug who tried to kill him but did not die. Skeletons held Kim Minwoo's body, but he kicked them to dust and poured a potion on his chest, barely stopping the bleeding. Their eyes met. The hero's eyes grew serious. An orc guard tossed his weapon to Kim Minwoo, who grabbed the glaive instead of his broken sword. The glaive clanged against the hero's forearm. The hero asked why he struggled so hard, puzzled. Kim Minwoo said he was protecting something and did not need a reason. The hero smiled, then kicked Kim Minwoo far away, causing massive damage and destroying all his equipment. Kim Minwoo summoned skeletons where he landed, but his body slammed into the ground with tremendous impact, crushing his chest and causing blood to trickle from his missing arm. His body did not twitch. His vision blurred as a warning appeared. He had suffered a fatal injury, but the effects of indomitable soul and indomitable spirit activated while his soul points decreased. The hero approached with his glaive at Kim Minwoo's throat, speaking his name slowly. Just before the glaive touched him, a familiar spear deflected it. Cedric, having removed his heavy armor, commanded the hero not to touch Kim Minwoo anymore. The world turned gray, and a message appeared. Cedric had overcome his regrets and obtained the heart of a legion commander of the Death Lord, once known as the Dragon Knight. Cedric would now fight for Kim Minwoo, activating the power of the Death Lord and the summoned Cedric, SSS. Kim Minwoo acquired the titles Master of the Dragon Knight, acknowledged by Mutakta, and the One Who Stops Eternity. The battlefield faded away slowly, and Kim Minwoo left the battlefield. Kim Minwoo looked down at his body, which was now as good as new with no sign of potion addiction. Unlike moments before when he struggled to move his limbs, Kim Minwoo considered the advantages of a virtual body and acknowledged that despite spending money, he had gained much. He had acquired combat experience from the skeletons and personally endured a massive war that money could not buy, which would aid the skeleton's future growth. He reviewed the numerous titles he had obtained, many of which were unfamiliar to him. He examined the new title list, noting the effects of each. He had participated in a special battlefield, gaining a mana increase. He had hunted 500 orcs, increasing his attack power against orcs by 10%. He had developed a slight resistance to potion addiction. He had defeated monsters much stronger than himself, boosting attack power against such monsters by 10%. He had commanded over 500 subordinates, raising their morale by 3%. He then focused on the top titles earned through feats that could have cost 10 lives. The Indomitable Soul title granted survival beyond bodily death and a 10% increase in all abilities, including additional ones. The Master of the Dragon Knight title increased the learning ability of all skeleton-type summons, allowed skeletons to reach the rank of Dragon Soldier, and exerted a strong oppressive aura against dragon-type monsters. Kim Minwoo reflected on the potential of skeleton summons improving through these effects, acknowledging he did not expect them to match his own skill, but hoped for significant improvement nonetheless. He recognized the value of the Dragon Soldier rank, a summon previously unavailable to necromancers, and anticipated summoning a group of Dragon Soldiers in the future. He also noted the title, one who has received the recognition of Matakta, which increased strength and agility by 30 each and caused orcs to feel affinity toward him, potentially opening special routes during encounters. The one who has stopped the eternity title increased mana by 20 and indicated that a divine beast was watching him, though he did not understand this effect. At the chairman's main house, a heavily guarded location in Korea with advanced detection systems, Kim Minwoo contemplated the mysterious divine beast and resolved to think positively about the unknown. He reviewed his status window, seeing his name, occupation, level, own skills, mana, titles, and stats. Despite his equipment being destroyed, his pure physical abilities were impressive for level 1, with strength and agility at 81 each, stamina at 52, and mana at 75, plus additional ability increases totaling 83, equivalent to over level 20. He noted the 10% increase in all abilities and possession of Cedric. He calculated his losses. Rare items damaged beyond repair, the Black Heart set worth 50 billion given to the skeletons, consumables worth nearly 10 billion, spare equipment worth about 20 billion, and the intermediate spatial ring worth 50 billion destroyed, totaling approximately 130 billion. He considered the effects gained for that cost a huge profit.